Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk. I'm Slim Overton, and I'm here with co-host Leah Drake Stitt. And we have a special guest who Leah will introduce to you later on. But before we get started, I'm going to play this little audio here that is sort of set up where we going with our guest today. You might know a little bit about this, but this is just will update us. And by the way, if you're watching, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And we'll look for your comments. We are live. We look for your comments. You have any comments you want to make during the show or questions you might have for our guests, please feel free to do so. But here we are.
About 22 million Americans who are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, have been receiving tax credits to pay for their health insurance premiums. They're set to expire at the end of this year. Obamacare premiums are expected to increase next year, and without the additional subsidies, will likely skyrocket.
If we don't extend the tax credits, the average American
Chuck
will pay from
Schumer.
$500 to $1,000 more every month in their health care insurance. So many people will have to drop health care insurance, and they'll say, what am I going to do?
President Trump opposes extending the existing system of directly paying the insurance companies. He'd rather see the government give the money straight to the patient.
Instead of giving it to insurance companies, big, fat, bloated insurance companies, we're giving the money directly to the people to buy their own health care. Americans buy it from some may. I mean, they'll be negotiating prices. It's really free enterprise. They'll be, you can do it through an insurance company. You can also buy it direct. They have savings accounts.
A number of lawmakers are expressing support for that plan.
We're not going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to fix Obamacare.
That's Rick Scott out of
everybody ought to be able
Florida,
to buy plans.
Republican.
Everybody ought to be covered. Pre-existing conditions ought to be covered. So that would stop that. I'm not suggesting we change the structure because I think we can drive down the cost by giving people options.
Government money deposited into Obamacare enrollee accounts could be used to pay for deductibles as well as premiums.
The president is proposing that we take the $26 billion that would be going to insurance companies if we just do a straight out extension. And by the way, 20% of that $26 billion, 20% will go for profit and administrative overhead. Give it directly to the American people in an account in which 100% of the money is used for them to purchase health care on their own terms.
So far, Democrats are resisting the plan. Obamacare enrollees aren't the only ones seeing their health insurance increase. The roughly 165 million Americans who get health coverage through work are expected to see about a 7.5% hike in 2026. Private insurance spending has increased 80% since 2008, with hospitals, clinics, and doctors receiving the bulk. Nearly half of adults say it's difficult to afford health care costs, and 1 in 3 report putting off health care because of the cost. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Okay, Leah, we can introduce our special guest. After that,
Thanksgiving is just.
let me stop that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I am deeply honored to be able to introduce our guest for today. I was blessed to go to a forum that she had last week at TCC, which was well attended, and it's going to be on the subject in which we're going to talk about on today. So she is a powerhouse in leadership, service, and community impact. She's none other than Gaylene C. Kanoyton. She's a native of Detroit, Michigan. She's a proud graduate of Hampton University and the Civic Leadership Institute. She's called Hampton, Virginia home for nearly 30 years, and throughout that time, she's become one of the region's most dynamic and influential civic leaders. Gaylene is the president of Gaylene LLC, a management and marketing company, and her commitment to public service is reflected in the many organizations she supports. She serves the executive board of the Urban League of Hampton Roads, is the first vice president of the Hampton NAACP, and contributes her leadership to the Hampton Arts Commission, the Hampton Child Development Center Board, and the Chesapeake Bay Academy Board. Her dedication to advancing women's issues was recognized through gubernatorial appointment by Governor Tim Kaine to the Council on the Status of Women. Her work has earned her numerous honors, including the YWCA Woman of Distinction Award, the Unity Commission Award, Zeta Phi Beta Sororities Woman of Power Award, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternities Community Service Award, and the Sister to Sister Humanitarian Award. Gaylene's leadership is not only recognized, it's felt. She organized the Kids Voting America program on the peninsula in 2002, empowering over 20,000 students to engage in the electoral process and inspiring parents to head to the polls. She spearheaded the Think Globally, Act Locally Tsunami Relief Telethon, raising over $20,000 for international disaster relief, and coordinated 2 major Hurricane Katrina resource fairs to provide essential assistance to more than 1,000 displaced families. Gaylene's civic involvement extends to several distinguished organizations, including the Moles, Carrots, the Lynx Incorporated, and the Knights of Peter Claver Ladies Auxiliary. She's also an active member of St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church. Gaylene resides in Hampton and has a wonderful 14-year-old son who's there with her, and her goal is to uplift the community. And I have been blessed to attend 2 of her Celebrate Healthcare events, one in Hampton, I think a year ago, and then the one that she had at TCC on last week. Gaylene is a powerhouse, and she is going to let you know, those of you who are on SNAP, those of you who are Medicaid, there are changes underway. And if you don't listen, get your groups together so that you can call her. She will come to any event, or at least you'll have a representative there to talk to you about the changes that are taking place. Heed her now, because it's coming, and it's coming like that tsunami that she was working to fight against. So we're so happy to have Gaylene with us on Portsmouth Coffee Talk this morning, and I just cannot wait. Many of you commented when I put on my page about what's taking place with SNAP and Medicaid, but she's going to tell you firsthand what is going to take place. So, Gaylene, I want to say welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And when I mentioned to you last week about coming on, never did I think that you would be coming on so soon, but I am excited that you are. And prayerfully, the folks in Portsmouth can get organized and get people together so that they can share with these individuals what's taking place in the healthcare field. So once again, I'm going to say welcome, Gaylene. Do you have any opening statements you would like to make?
I do.
The real HU.
Yes, the real HU, Hampton University.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for having me on today. And this is a very important subject. First of all, I'm going to send you an updated bio because my son is 28 years old now.
Is he 28?
And yeah, I know they were online. They must have my son is 20. That's a 2-year-old. Yeah.
I should have known that because I met him in Hampton. So I should not have followed your bio. Okay.
You did. Yeah.
Go right ahead.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I just sent you an updated one, but I'm going to update it. But I want to say this is that, I started Celebrate Healthcare in 2013 because no one was talking about the affordable care. And it was very political back then. And so what I did was I started going around to churches and community centers and educating people on the importance of enrolling into a health insurance plan or Obamacare, as we call it. And then I had certified
we lost Gaylene.
Walk them through the process.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And to date, we have enrolled over 30,000 people into the affordable care, educated and enrolled over 30,000 people into the affordable care. And Also, when they fell into the gap, we was able to tell them why they need to vote in a nonpartisan way for Medicaid to be expanded. And Medicaid was expanded in 2018. And so we probably helped over 5,000 people get into Medicaid to get it when it expanded, when it expanded. And so when the SNAP and Medicaid start coming up, and they had this big, I'm not gonna call it a beautiful bill because it's not a big beautiful bill. We all know that. That I thought when I found out the changes, because there's so much in this bill that when I dissected it down to Medicaid and SNAP, I was like, no one's talking about Medicaid and SNAP publicly on what the community needs to do, and that's how we started having these meetings. Healthcare is a right and not a privilege. And as I tell everyone, people are just trying to do a couple things. I mean, a lot of things, but number one, feed their families. They are trying to have adequate, they want to have good health care, and they want to go to work. And so those are things, are fundamental rights that we all should have. And so this fight is going to continue on and make sure that we work together on this Medicaid and SNAP changes and move forward, and hopefully can get it fixed when we get into the next administration.
Exactly. And Gaylene, an important thing that for individuals to understand is that not only does this affect households and families, but it's also going to affect the school system. Can you explain that to them as well?
Oh, absolutely. So I have a short presentation, but I'm just going to paraphrase of it. But the bill they call HR1, nearly $200 billion from SNAP over the next 10 years. The cuts are going to be over $200 billion from SNAP over the next 10 years. And many immigration statuses will now be ineligible, expanded work requirements. It also has lower benefits, changes to SNAP utility allowance, cuts to thrifty food programs, reductions in future benefits. For the first time, the states will pay for a share of the benefit costs and face a 25% increase in administrative expenses. So when you talk about SNAP, they have work requirements, and also you have to have fill out the paperwork. And if you don't do these things, then you lose your privileges.
Exactly.
You lose the habit. And so that will affect Title IX in schools, because when you have people start dropping off from SNAP, you talk about food, the food programs that's included in Title IX. I was talking to our school board chair yesterday in Hampton about it. So all this has a domino effect, not only in the household, but in the community as well.
And also the fact that people receiving funding for students who are in their household, but now any child who's over the age of 14 in the household will not be included in the SNAP benefits. Am I correct?
So yes, and so what they have, so before they had what they call eyeballs, and that was able-bodied adults without dependents, had to work. All individuals who are able to work must be working or actively engaged in a work activity in order to receive SNAP benefits. Unless an exemption to work requirements exists, individuals may receive SNAP benefits for only 3 months during a 36-month period. But the changes to SNAP, and let me just tell you what the changes are. Before it was able-bodied, and now it's like you have to work unless you have a doctor's note, right? So under 18 years or 55 years or older was before, and now it's under 18 or 65 and under and older. So what that means is that before it was 55 years of age that you had to work up until you were 55 if you want to SNAP. Now you got to work until you're 65. Okay. Now, if you have a child that is 14 years and older, before it used to be individuals 24 or younger or who were in foster care on the date of attending 18 years, now they have to work. But before, if you were 18, I'm going to the household because foster care is a big issue too. But if you were 14 up to 18 years of age, then you were okay. The child was okay in the household being in the SNAP. But now SNAP only covers up to 14 years of age.
That's right.
Which means that if you have 15, 16, or 17, 18, then the parents have to work. They have to work. They have to fill the 80 hours a month, which is 20 hours a week, volunteer or work requirements for that. And if a child is on their own, like 18 or 17, 18, they have to feel that they have to do it as well. So it's going to be really important that we help, first of all, the paperwork get completed, and we also help make sure that we find places, and let me just say this, legitimate places where people can volunteer or they can work, fill their work requirements. And the reason why I have these events and I'm going to talk about some of the differences between the work registration requirements, but the reason why I have these events, these meetings, and we've done it on the Peninsula Virginia Peninsula Community College. We've also done it in Virginia Beach at Tidewater Community College. And then this past Friday, we had it in Portsmouth at the Tidewater Community College. Because if you make under $60,000 a year, you can go to school at no charge. There's programs that you can get into, whether it's health, allied health, whether it's technical programs, but there's certain programs that you can get into that you can help you not only learn a trade or get into a field, but also fill your work requirements. So let me just talk about the difference between eyeball, which was the able-bodied workers that we had before, and the work registration requirements that we have now. So individuals who are physically or mentally fit to work and over the age of 15 and under 60 must register to work or voluntarily quit or reduce their hours without good cause. Individuals who are not exempt from work registration requirements are sanctioned for no compliance for 1 month for the first violation, 3 months for the second violation, and 6 months for the third violation. Who's exempt? Complying with work registration requirements under TANF or unemployment, parents or mental or other members of the household with responsibility of taking care of a dependent under 6 or incapacitated person, bona fide student enrolled at least half time in a recognized school training program or institution of higher education, regular participants in drug and alcohol rehab programs, employed 30 hours a week or make more than $217 a week, persons 16 to 18 who is not the head of household or who is attending school or enrolled in employment training or at least half-time basis. So that's what the work requirement registration that we have now. And we're going to put this in a document so people can and do like an FAQ so people can understand. This is a high-level presentation because some lawyers have wrote this.
Right.
But the concerning part of this is that the changes to the waivers program, especially in areas that the unemployment rate was above 10% or more, the areas that does not have sufficient number of jobs to employ individuals, that's among other criteria, must show 20% above the national employment, they're going to lose exemptions. And we're talking about Brunswick, Buchanan, Danville, Dickinson, Dinwiddie, Greensville, Emporia, Hopewell, Martinsville, Petersburg, Surrey, and Suffolk. So how to meet SNAP requirements, reporting requirements. This is the most important part. Work for cash wages or in-kind goods or services for 20 hours or more per week. Participate in and comply with employment services program operated by DSS, the Department of Social Services, other than job search for 20 hours or more a week, or a number of hours assigned for work experience component as calculated by the household. Participate and comply with non-departmental work programs for 20 hours or more per week. Serve unpaid volunteer at a minimum for the number of hours equal to the household allotment divided by the federal minimum wage. If a member is unable to work and able to show good cause, remains eligible as long as absence is temporary and a member retains work. And so Mostly everybody gonna have to go to work. They're gonna have to go to work, or they're gonna have volunteer hours. And Leah, one of the things at our meeting, that the nonprofits representatives that were there of organizations, they said that puts a heavy burden on them because they have to complete a lot of paperwork for the volunteers.
And they have to have somebody to monitor those volunteers when they're there.
They got to have somebody to monitor it. They got to fill out all this different paperwork, and they don't have the staff to do that. You think about it. You said, well, everybody needs a volunteer, but no one thinks about what goes behind organizations and nonprofits and churches. I was talking to a pastor about it yesterday, and he was like, yeah, it's a lot when you have people volunteer for you. And I think about the bad actors that could get into this, and I'm hoping that legislation can be passed, even in Virginia at least, whatever, or guidelines can be set on who can get involved. I mean, who can, do volunteer hours, so that you have bad actors. If somebody has 60 hours and need 20 more hours, we don't want to have human trafficking. We don't want to have any of those things, especially if you have parents. And one of the things that the lawyers from the Virginia Poverty Law Center is the one who did this presentation. But especially if you have children over 14 and you have to go to work, you might have a situation where the mother was a stay-at-home mother and the father worked. Now both parents got to work. That's what they said. That's what they told us. Both parents have to work, and so we just have to make sure that this SNAP. So SNAP is in play now. Medicaid starts January 1, 2027. And that's when Medicaid will come in. And you'll have your work requirements for that one. And with Medicaid, you used to be able to go back when you signed up for Medicaid and you had services, or you had to go to a state emergency room or whatever, you had to go 3 months earlier. It went retroactive back 90 days, and Medicaid paid for that, when you went into the program. Now it's only going to, in 2027, now it's only going to go back 30 days. And under Medicaid, you have to complete the paperwork every 6 months.
And Gaylene, you got to fill out the paperwork every 6 months. But however, speak to them about social services and how inundated they are, and how those caseworkers are having 1,000 people who they have to deal with.
Yeah. So the most, and so you have your average. I know in Hampton Roads, I mean, the presentation we had, they said anywhere from 450 to 500, and every city we've been in, they have all said 800. Every caseworker has 800 to 1,000 cases.
And they're going to complete this paperwork every 6 months.
Every 6 months, when Medicaid kicks in, they're going to have to kick it in. So I thought it was important that we start talking to community leaders and agencies and nonprofits and organizations and faith leaders about the importance of all of us are going to have to be ambassadors of this paperwork in SNAP and in Medicaid, and making sure that we know where to direct people to. It's going to be all kinds of resources. We partnered with the United Way because United Way has a big base of nonprofits, but we wanted to make sure that, number one, everyone knows how to walk someone through the paperwork. And we're going to start doing trainings for that as well. And so that churches can help their members and organizations can help the community, and, nonprofits can help, their base as well, and so on how to complete this paperwork, and not only complete the paperwork, but turn it in on time.
Exactly.
Because people are busy,
They don't keep up with that. Gaylene, I just want to ask you this. I played that video in the beginning because it's strange to try to listen to them try to explain why they want to make it better. And Leah, you just mentioned about the backlog at the social services, and I'm concerned about people that were like me, that I'm a heart transplant recipient, but during that period between me having to leave work and while they were treating me, I found out I didn't have insurance on my job. So while I was trying to get that straight, I had to deal with social services. So the hospital, Centura, would continue to treat me. And it was like a nightmare trying to get that. We were doing everything we could. And I wanted to get mad at the people at social services, but then I figured out later they were so overwhelmed. They did everything they could, but you had to really push them to get it. But they were just overwhelmed to the point where I don't know how I'm sure some of them are on therapy now. I mean, they are getting some kind of therapy for what they had to go through. So it seemed like they're trying to make this better, but they're complex. From what you reporting, they're making it more complicated for people. And like you said, people are busy, and people will forget. The 6 months comes up so quick. you know, you're gonna forget to get that paperwork in there on time, and then you're gonna go to the doctor or something, find yourself uninsured, or you're gonna go try to get some food and not have any SNAP benefits.
So let me
So
just say that, yeah. Let me
go
just
ahead.
say this quick. So when your opening the report was about the affordable care. So you have the affordable care, you have SNAP, and you have Medicaid. So the affordable care, and that's why I started Celebrate Healthcare, which is Obamacare, is what is on a chopping block, as we say, because they want to take away the tax credits, the subsidies.
Right.
Before it was where a person say make $25,000, $30,000 or whatever, they might pay next to nothing for their insurance, and now they're going to pay more for their insurance because then the tax credits will come off, and that means you're going to be paying you're going to be paying way more because you're going to pay for actually what the insurance costs. But when you have the president talk about, oh, well, let's give them money so they can pick their own insurance, he's talking about giving them $2,000.
You can't do it.
Now, first of all, let's be real. Somebody is struggling and you get $2,000. You gonna spend it on healthcare?
Not at all. Not at all.
No, they're gonna spend it on what they need to spend it on. And he said shop around, where he had these, when he put in his first term, they had what they call these short healthcare plans, and it was really like a Trump care plan, and they were a ripoff. And they still have them there. I tell everyone that when you get phone calls from these you get these calls from these folks saying, we're with the Affordable Care and all this stuff. They're quacks. It's not real.
And they're hoodwinking a lot of individuals. They're believing that it's true.
They don't give you the
every day.
They don't give you the coverage that you need. And the thing about it with the Affordable Care, what the Affordable Care had afforded people to have is that all of your preventative care was included.
Exactly.
Which means that you can go and get your physical, your mammogram, your colonoscopy, and you didn't have to pay a deductible for those things. You don't have to pay a deductible. And none of these other short plans they had back then, you did have to pay for. It wasn't included in these plans, and then you end up paying more. And now they have plans out here that pay as you go.
Yes.
Okay, so what is pay as you go? So every time you go to the doctor, that's when you pay. Well, not everybody have money to do that. And we have so many people, millions of people, and even in Virginia, that's enrolled into the Affordable Care. They are going to lose their insurance because they're not going to be able to afford the premiums. And then they'll go back to using the emergency room as their doctor. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that everyone has insurance. And that's why this fight is going on in Washington, to make sure that we get these tax credits and we keep the gun subsidies in here. Now, the Republicans, and this is a nonpartisan show, and I'm, whatever, but the Republicans don't have a plan. They don't have a plan.
He said they announced this morning that he said that he has this plan he's going to bring to the table. He's been saying that for the past, how long? Since Obamacare.
They've been saying
13 years.
Yes. They've been saying this forever, that they have a plan, and they don't have a plan. And Affordable Care works. It works. And the thing about it is the majority of their constituents are either on Medicaid, SNAP, or both, or an Affordable Care. So come on now. Their constituents are on this plan, on these plans as well too. So I remember when I started doing an enrollment, I have a federal navigator that walk people through the process. And that's why we do it. And I have trusted agents that have their own companies that I trust, because I don't use just anybody, that I've been using since 2013, that helps walk people through the process. And that's the reason why, because when you go online, it could be convoluted sometimes.
Very
Now,
convoluted.
let me tell you what the saving grace for Virginia is. It's under Governor Northam. We have a state-run insurance now. Our affordable care is not federally run anymore. It's run under the state. Okay, which means that's the Virginia Insurance Marketplace. That is the same as healthcare.gov. You know, we have same benefits and everything else. Only the state runs it and not the federal government. And so, you know, it's going to be interesting to see in this General Assembly session, what are they going to do if these benefits were to go away, and how are they going to be able to help with the, you know, put it in the budget to, you know, help some of these, help these people with who's on the affordable care, or in what's called a Virginia Insurance Marketplace. It is legitimate. Make sure they be able to keep their insurance. And that was our saving grace. That's one of our saving grace in these other states who are federally run. And when you think about Medicaid, you know, we get so much money from Medicaid, especially the expanded piece, you know, and that's what they want to cut off, you know, on a national level to the states, is to get rid of Medicaid expansion. That's why they put these work requirements for people who want to expand. And why Medicaid had to be expanded? Because before Medicaid, you had to make up to a certain amount, and then you'd be on Medicaid. But if you made, I think it was something between 14 and it was like 18,000 or whatever, you fell into what we call the gap. And so you couldn't go into the affordable care and you couldn't go on Medicaid. And so therefore you was out with insurance. So when Medicaid got expanded, you were able to keep your Medicaid. Students who worked part-time or full-time, you know, who are on their own, they were able to go on Medicaid, you know, and then also folks that didn't have a job, you know, period, they would still be able to go on Medicaid. They were looking for it, or whatever the case might be, they were able to go on Medicaid, you know, because it was expanded. So we know everybody who fell into the gap was able to get Medicaid because we had expanded Medicaid. And so what was going to happen in 2027 is that, you know, the work requirements are all going to kick in, and a lot of this is going to go away. But the paperwork is going to be more intensified, you know, every 6 months. SNAP is happening now, and I call it, I don't want to say test run, but this is the reason why we're having these meetings. We're going to start having town halls to bring the community in so we can educate, you know, educate recipients and, you know, family members and everyone else on these changes in Medicaid and SNAP. And so right now, with SNAP having the work requirements and having paperwork to be completed, we as a community need to come together and figure out how we be able to help these recipients thrive.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that so much information is going out there, because I said earlier, and a lot of people are probably getting calls every day from different companies say, they want you to go with them, and you don't really know what's legit and what's really real and can help you. So you need to be educated. So other than the programs that y'all have, at TCC or something like that, is it a website or somewhere that people can go to get information in between time, or
Right. So
just?
I'm gonna start a page, and I got my webmaster doing it. But celebratehealthcare.net is the page that I have now. I have a lot of insurance information on that, but I'm gonna actually put this presentation on my website, and they'll keep updates. Now, the General Assembly session starts in the middle of January. Well, I think it's the second week of January, and we want to make sure that our legislators are supported by whatever legislation they put in place. I know that we have this past election was a bellwether. We set the stage on where the country is going and what the country is thinking right now. And this past election was about affordability. It was your kitchen table was on the ballot. And everything that you heard the president saying, people were looking at every refrigerator and their kitchen table saying, it don't match. It's not matching. He's talking about we doing well, and I'm not doing well in my household.
Not at all.
Not at all. No. And so therefore people voted their kitchen table. You know, they voted to be protected against the White House, protected against this president. They want their rights protected. And that's what happened in this past election. So now we have a General Assembly, you know, House, Senate, and our executive offices. We have a General Assembly that's for the people now. And so therefore it's going to be important that everyone stay in tune to what's happening in a General Assembly session. And we can come back and talk about this, but we need to talk about, you know, being able to show up at subcommittee meetings and committee meetings and speak on certain bills. Exactly. And why it's important for it to pass. Because once it gets out of subcommittee, it goes to committee. And once it gets out of committee, then it goes to the floor for a vote. And so you got good bills that you want to get out. You got bad bills that you don't want to get out. And you got to remember that in the last General Assembly session, Governor Youngkin vetoed the most bills of any governor. You know, so hopefully these bills will come back. You know, but healthcare is definitely going to be on the forefront. You know, a lot of this legislation with so much more.
It is, and you know, and Gaylene also, I want to know your professional opinion on. We had those Democrats who signed on to open the government up, okay, with the pledge that the Republicans are going to make a vote on the healthcare piece. What's your opinion? Because I think we may be headed for another shutdown because you can't trust those guys on the other side. So for your professional opinion as to we may be back in shutdown status. Your thoughts?
Or your personal opinion. We'll take that too.
Yeah. So let me just say this, because you know everybody knows I have a lot of roles. Let me say this. So this has been extended to January 31st. And so you'll know too, open enrollment for the Affordable Care ends on January 30th. So that's open enrollment January 30th, right? And so there's two sides to this coin. I know people that need surgery and, you know, enrolled into a plan and need surgery, say in February. And if they don't have their surgery, they could possibly die. Then on the other hand of it, I have families. We all know families that federal workers, you know, they work for, and Virginia has the most, you know, in the country of federal workers that were shut down. My son works for the federal government, and he was on shutdown. And you have families that were affected, not only just family for the federal government, but contractors, you know, businesses, small businesses. That's also was a domino effect. So therefore, people, and let's talk about Black people. We know that when America catches a cold, Black people catches pneumonia. You know that. We know that. You know that. And so therefore, you have people who are already behind in their bills, and then they were furloughed. And so no one's talking about these folks who went back to work, waiting on their check to come, and they're already behind in their bills. You know, it's going to be even more. So it's a two-sided coin to it, because healthcare is important. If you're not healthy, you can't work.
Exactly.
You know, but then you have some people who couldn't afford food. The food lines are longer than ever now. Prices are higher when you go to the grocery store. Gas has gone up. I mean, everything has gone up. The prices has gone up. You know, so I believe we probably will be headed for another shutdown, you know, by January 31st behind this thing, because I'm not sure that the Republicans are going to bring it back, but they might come up with a plan, but a plan is not going to meet what we already have. And what we're going to do, set up for something that's not going to, is this going to be even worse or whatever? Because giving $2,000 to everybody to purchase their own health care is just not going to work.
It's not.
It's not. And then, you remember, when you remember the $1,500 that everybody thought that Trump gave him because it came with that letter.
Because he put his name on the check.
because he put his name on that check. That they would think that the Republicans did the same thing with this $2,000. No, we got but in this past election, we have had more people, young people, that came out to vote. So you had two sets of people. You had several sets of people to vote, but you had a lot of young people to come out to vote. And then you had the people who voted for Trump that thought they were going to be on a different list. And then they woke up and realized they're on the same list as us because they lost their jobs. They lost their good 6-figure federal jobs, you know, whatever, good paying jobs. Or they was like, I ain't supposed to lose my job. My wife was supposed to lose her job. My kids weren't supposed to lose their jobs. And so they came out and voted, you know, for Abigail Spanberger and the whole ticket. So you had two sets of folks, you know, that really came out. The young folks woke up, they realized, hey, I got to get out here and vote. And then you had these people who thought they was on a different list, realized they're on the same list as us. They came out. The numbers were astronomical, especially in early vote. Early voters came. I mean, then people came out and voted early, which was great because that's what we want. They came out and voted. So we really have to fight in Virginia and fight against across the country to make sure that we keep our health care plans, keep our affordable care, make sure we keep these government subsidies, you know, tax credits or whatever. Make sure we keep all of this stuff because people are going to the doctor. When I was started Celebrate Healthcare, we were going to nightclubs. At 12 o'clock at night, I would go to nightclubs, and I met women who had babies, 3 and 4 babies, and never went to the doctor. They were having babies in their home because they couldn't afford health care. You know, I have had people, and I used to put videos up all the time, men, 50 years old, never had health insurance. You know, and then they got some health insurance. One guy, he'll tell you, he said, I'm paying $50 a month. I'm paying $16 a month for my dental. I never thought it was so inexpensive. You know, and they're going to get their preventative care because that saves lives. Early detection of any disease saves lives. And so when you have a healthier society, you have a healthier workforce. But when you start putting burdens on other programs like Medicaid and SNAP and all of that outside of the affordable care, then it burdens the whole community. It does. It really does. And so people will start falling off these programs. And just like you said earlier, Leah, it'll start affecting different programs, especially in the Title IX is in schools.
That's right.
And other programs as well. It's a domino effect. And so this is a 911 call for everyone to say, let me learn how to fill out this paperwork so I can walk other people through this paperwork.
Exactly.
You know, let me set up a clock and find out every 6 months the deadline to make sure the people I know fill out this paperwork and send it in. When we get to that Medicaid part in 2027 is SNAP, you just got to fill out your paperwork. You know, but you gotta have your requirements in because the paperwork doesn't have to be in every 6 months for SNAP, but still you got to do your work requirements. And we want to make sure that people meet those work requirements. So what can we do as a community to help that? And then outside of all of that, when you think about the work requirements, when you think about SNAP, you also got to think about people's mental health behind all of this as well.
Exactly.
You know, because it's a lot. It's just a lot. You know, it's a lot. And so
And
you know how we are about that in our communities about mental health. You know,
yes.
we tend not to, you know, pay attention to that, and that's a big part of
that's right.
mentally and physically. You know, a mentally ill person that can affect your physical health as well. So, you know, and you just made a good point. You mentioned 2027. I think people need to stay focused when we mention those dates like that, and people say, okay, that's down the road. I don't need to worry about that now. It'll be here before you know it. And you need to be thinking about 2027, 2028, and all of that, because all that's going to be important. So the more you learn now about what's going on, and the issue is staying focused, because they throwing all kinds of, you know, distractions at us, so we can be talking about this or looking at that and not paying attention to what's important and what's going to affect us directly.
Right. And most important is to make sure everybody turn out and vote in 2026.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah, that's
Okay.
keep doing what you're doing.
2026. Yes, make sure that they turn out and vote in 2026, because just like the Department of Social Services said and other organizations said, 2027 is right around the corner. And to build these programs out is going to take a minute, but it's going to be here before you know it.
Before you know it.
This program that they're going to kick in 2027 should have been built out several years ago. And this bill came in and is pushing everyone to hurry up and move forward with this. And so SNAP is like our dry run to get ready for Medicaid and get our folks start thinking about it. I have people go door to door, to make sure, because remember, after COVID, during COVID, you didn't have to renew for Medicaid. Because under Biden administration, you didn't have to renew. You kept your Medicaid. Well, after COVID was over, then you had to renew. And so they were sending text messages, emails, and sending letters in the mail. And people are busy. They weren't paying attention. So we will have people going
Some
door
of us
to
think
door.
you just take it and you toss it aside when it comes. You throw it away.
Exactly.
You don't look at it.
And we have people that were going door to door, making sure that everyone was completing their paperwork so that they can get back into Medicaid. But still people have lost their Medicaid, but we still were able to get people back into Medicaid. But
Gaylene, also, as
under
mentioned,
these new rules, it's going to be much harder and more.
Yeah. But also, as mentioned in the forum that you had at TCC on Friday,
and
we found out that Social Services is working off of equipment from the 1990s. Here we are in 2025, and they're using old equipment in order to deal with what's taking place with these changes. That's going to be another impact on whether the work gets done.
Well, that's so important. And I think that under this General Assembly session and this incoming administration, let me just say that, I think that they will have updated solutions to help them. But most importantly is that they need more funding too. They got to hire more people.
They do.
They're going to have to hire more people. And I remember when I went to a forum that Senator Warner had in Franklin, and I had retired social workers come up to me and said, I will help people walk through the process. So let's think about having a retired social workers organization come together to help people with the paperwork, because you have people out here who are retired and did this kind of work that can help, that's here too. So we have to be creative and think about different ways that we can help with the paperwork. And help with these work requirements, and I know that United Way, if you have volunteer needs, you can actually go on their site and you can log on and put up your volunteer needs so they can go to there. Now I know, and I believe with this incoming administration, they will update Common Help and 211 and with the information, get updated information on where you can get help. And where you can do these, and where you can get help and other things as well, because we got so much we have to deal with, housing and just everything. We got a lot to deal with. We just got a lot.
Yes. And
so we just want to make sure we have it.
And if you ever thought there's nothing to all of this, especially the ACA, anytime Marjorie Taylor Greene breaks away from the Republican Party, breaks away from President Trump, because she's been his biggest cheerleader, because they thought it was going to impact upon people who are brown, the brown people. But when that stuff started hitting her constituents, her children, she realized that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So if that can cause her to break away, there's something impactful for each of us out here, that she would walk away from what she's doing, walk away from the president because of what's going to take place with healthcare in America.
She should have paid. She should. I think I put it on my Facebook. I said she should have listened to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, phone a friend. She should have called somebody up. She should have called somebody up. Because I'm telling you, they are scared to fight against this president. I mean, they'd rather leave and then have somebody come in that's going to be a minion to him.
Thank you.
Than fight for the people.
The fight's not there, honey. Look, as long as they can soar, they're happy. But when you got to get into the battle, it's just like in war. They put us in the foreground and they go to the back. So they're not about
it's going to take them to start losing some of those seats with their own constituents.
And she said that's going to happen. She said it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. She might be working behind the scenes too on this one too. Maybe she got a plan. She might have a plan. She might be trying to create. But yeah, anytime Marjorie Green, you're exactly right. I was like, I said, Lord, but you know, I said politics makes strange bedfellows.
It does.
But she, when she said she stepped away and she's gonna do it on January the 5th. You know, I said to myself, you know, there's other folks that are out there too that's thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping the constituents will wake up and realize we have got to get back on track and have legislators is for the people and not for Trump.
Exactly.
Not for him.
Exactly.
Not for him. We don't have kings. And he is truly acting like a king.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And kings have their limitations as well now. So we got to pull those limitations in, you know.
Yeah, well, kings have it too, right? And you know, and the thing about it is that they're getting richer. He's getting richer. His base is getting richer. He's got more money in his coffers. He's going to spend a whole lot of money coming up in this election in 2026. You know, and we just have to be on a battleground and make sure that we do the work and we educate everyone and not have everyone be comfortable. And this healthcare concern is a major issue, and we have got to raise the roof. And when people start seeing it with SNAP, and it's interesting, they're going to start Medicaid in 2027, so that if the Democrats was to take over the House and Senate, we'll take over the House and Senate, then they're gonna blame it on the Democrats for it happened. For that's going to happen. Exactly. Well, you know, they don't. That can't work. We got to explain people to now how important this election is, and this date was set under this administration. You know, under the Trump administration, it was not set. You know, set before then. So you know, this election in 2026 is going to be critical that everyone turn out and remember, because you know, sometimes voters can only remember yesterday. They don't remember what's going through right now, and what we're going through right now is critical. Yeah, that's exactly right. So.
Well, I'm so glad you're out there, Gaylene, because as you stated, we can't wait till the end of 2026 to get started. No. This has to happen today, and it has to be continuous, and it has to be repeated time and time again, because sometimes for our friends and family members, you have to repeat it over and over and over again in order for them to ingest what it is you're saying. But we got to keep the word out there. We have to become those foot soldiers out there to make sure that they understand what's about to happen in their lives.
And that is so important that we talk about the importance of this. But also, I mean, there's so many other issues. And I want to say this is that, you know, we got Thanksgiving coming up. And so they always say, Gaylene, what do you have to say about Thanksgiving and the dinner table? I said, don't argue at the dinner table, you know, over, you know, this politics and everything right now. Don't argue about it. And my favorite phrase is this, especially if you're in the Black community. Don't argue with anyone that Harriet would have left behind.
Amen. Gaylene, I love that.
Don't argue with anyone that Harriet would have left behind.
It's not worth the air to do it. That's for sure.
Right. If you're going to educate somebody, educate them. But don't argue.
Yeah, those people don't waste your time on them. Don't waste your time on them.
Yeah. I just say it all the time. Don't argue with, because at the end of the day, some people you just cannot reason with. You know, you just can't. You know, but it's the vulnerable that we have to look out for. You know, we have to be able to get educated. We have to educate them, because it's not going to be only people in marginalized communities affected by this. Like I said, it's going to affect everything. Look at small businesses, you know, look at, you know, restaurants and all of that. You know, they're impacted too. If you can't afford to go out to eat, if you can't afford a service, their business is going to decline.
Exactly.
So all of this has an economic downfall to this. You know, it's an impact, economic impact. Yeah, it's called cause and effect. That's exactly right. You know, it's like you want to keep us sick. I mean, one thing they talked about when they talked about having to shut down over, you had sick people versus, you know, hungry people, sick kids against hungry kids. You know, and who does that as a leader? Who puts these two groups of people together? I mean, against each other. You know, to take two issues that and make it two separate issues instead of one to help hungry people and help sick people. Only a king and a tyrant does that. You know, and so when you talk about, you know, people are upset, you know, that, you know, Senator Kane, you know, voted to have the government come back up. And I've got, like I said before, I have people that I know that was that needed to go back to work, you know, because they couldn't afford to feed their families. And of course, I have people that that I know people that said I could be off another month. Well, you could afford to be off another month.
Exactly.
Other people were not couldn't afford to be off a month or couldn't afford their business to have that impact of again. But then you got sick people who need to have health care because they could die. Who does that?
Exactly.
Who does that? I mean, it's
someone who does not care.
Does not care.
Put those two things against each other and then say, make you have to decide with your vote.
You got to say the hungry or the
that was crazy.
Yeah, the hungry or the sick instead of helping both.
Exactly.
It's not both and. It's not both either or. It's not either or.
But the either or helps their agenda. That's why they're willing to just put those two factions against each other, which didn't make sense. Didn't make sense at all. And you mentioned about nonpartisan. We are Democrats up here, and we we lean all the way to the left, and we
I'm in the right house there.
And we have no bones about saying that, although we do believe in holding our own Democrats accountable.
That's right.
And we open it up for anybody to come up here for a discussion. So far, not too many from the right want to come. We had one person that was talking trash on social media. And when he got up here on the show, he was completely different. And then when he got off the show, he went back to talking trash. So when you bring them up and try to confront them, and force them to explain why they even, you know, he came up there, all he wanted to do was talk about fentanyl. Wasn't that right, Leah?
Yeah.
You know, but before that, he was getting on me about, you know, Trump is great and all this stuff. And then when we came up here, right before he came on, he said, well, look, I don't want confrontation. You know, what do you mean? Well, anyway, so, but the history has shown that Democrats have shown more compassion for the people. You know, it's problems in all people, but the Democrats on a whole have shown more compassion. You know, and just like you just mentioned, who puts those two things against each other and makes people choose?
But see, there are individuals who don't go to the grocery store. They have people go to grocery stores for them. There's no allocation of any. They can spend as much as they want to spend, so they don't have a concept. Trump doesn't know how much a dozen eggs cost.
Remember Trump saying you have to show your ID at the grocery store?
Please. They don't have a concept of what it is to live day to day because they don't have to live day to day.
Right.
You know.
Well, if you look at the attack on education, you look at an attack on our health care, you look at an attack on our food, it is just trying to marginalize everyone in these communities for control.
Exactly.
You know, and that's why the community must come together to make sure that we help our SNAP and Medicaid recipients thrive. It is our responsibility to come together and work within our own space. I always say work in your space. I'm not asking you to do anything big. I'm just saying work in your own space. If you got a neighborhood or you know your church members or whatever, help them thrive. Learn how to do this paperwork. You know, and DSS said we'll help do trainings on how to do the paperwork.
Exactly.
We will help with that to turn it in there because it's going to take all of us to make sure that the paperwork gets done. Make sure we know where the resources are. And once we get them on the bicycle, as I call it, riding to know how to do the paperwork, then they can start helping each other.
Exactly.
Who's the best to help a SNAP recipient and fill out paperwork?
someone
except a staff person who's filling out the paperwork. Right. You know, have
That's
them
right.
help their peers as well. You know, so, and then you think about the homeless population. I mean, you think about, you know, certain immigrants status. You know, I was on this forum, I said, with former Senator George Allen, and he made the comment, well, wouldn't it be great is that the immigrants, that when they get naturalized, they have to take a citizenship test. Why don't we have students who getting ready to graduate from high school take citizenship tests? And I said, excuse me? I said, you want students who are born here take a citizenship test? Oh, I didn't mean it that way. I know what he meant. Trust me. I know exactly what he meant, because the government, you have government classes, and you know they didn't took out a lot of the stuff out of, the truth out of government history, out of it, and then you got average adults probably couldn't pass the citizenship test right now anyway. It's almost like a poll tax. You know, it's almost like a poll tax to graduate. So if you look at the bigger picture of how they're trying to hindering us, you know, this hindrance, it's like they are just trying to do whatever it takes to minimize our ability to succeed.
Exactly. But Gaylene, I'm surely hoping that you can find a way of championing I like the idea of retired social workers coming together. So there should be a way to be able to champion that, to get that forum going, because that will make a major impact upon getting people registered, because they already know how to do it. So that would
that's what I plan on I talked to several of the directors of social services that said that was a good idea. And so I'm talking to them on how we can pull them together, because I asked them, was there a retired social workers organization? They said, no, there's not. And I said, well, this is the time to do it. Somebody can start a foundation or whatever and bring them all together, and, you know, help them with some funding on it, you know, be able to give them some kind of stipend. But right now, let's get it off the ground and get these retired social workers together and help. Look, it's going, like I said, it's going to take all of us, all ideas and everything. This is just what we're doing, is just to kick it off, and, you know, educating folks. And as changes come, keep them updated, keep a database. But we're going to be doing more of these informational sessions, but we're going to roll into town halls. Our first town hall will be on January 16th from 10 to 3 at the Hampton Roads Convention Center. I have a big health fair every year. And then at the end of January, I'm going to do it on the south side. But in between, we'll have other town halls where people can come to and learn. But this is just a model that people can do within their church. You know, they can do within their organization meetings, or whatever the case might be. Just bring folks together and make sure they have the right information. You know, and so that's why we're going to come up with other communication tools like FAQs and, you know, graphics that will help people be able to explain what the work requirements are, what the paperwork needs, and all of that, you know. So we'll have more to come, but this is the first step. That's all.
And the right information going to the right people. As you mentioned, you all even went to the nightclubs. So you have to go to, like you always heard, you have to go to where the people are.
Meet the people where they are.
Because you can have the town halls, and a lot of times at those town halls or some of those presentations, it'd be a lot of people there, but sometimes the people that are really affected aren't there.
That's exactly right.
Those are the people you have to get there. You know,
where we'll be going to the clubs, having little town halls.
Go to the clubs.
It won't be. Look, it won't. And we'll do it. And we do it in a unique way where it's not long. It's short, sweet, to the point, and get it. Just like we did same day register and vote. You know, we were going out there, and you'd be surprised. A lot of them didn't even know it. And we went around this past election. We went around to where they were. I went to the coffees and conversations. They have something. They got cocktails and conversations. That's what they do now. And these folks are doing it at ages like 32 to like 45, and they have 42 or something like that. They have this certain age range. They get together and they talk about everything over cocktails. And I go in there, and I always sit in the back of the room, you know, and they always call me up to talk about voting, but you'd be surprised how many people didn't know that you could same day register and vote. And we had a lot of people come out the same day and register to vote on November, this past election in November. And so we just got to make sure that we just keep educating folks on all the opportunities. You know, under the Democratic leadership, especially starting in 2020, before then, we were the 11th hardest state to vote in. Now we are the, we were the 49th hardest state to vote in. Now we're the 11th easiest state to vote in. That's what the 11th easiest state to vote in. And so we have a lot of opportunities and no excuse for no one not to vote, because you got so many different opportunities with 45 days early vote. You know, you can same day register and vote, Sunday vote, and all of that. And let me just say this, and this is important for Portsmouth. Now that we have a Democratic governor, you're going to have 2 people now on the electoral board that are Democrats out of 3.
Yes.
Portsmouth needs to push to get that Sunday vote.
Yes.
Portsmouth needs to push to have Sunday vote.
Exactly.
When you get that other Democrat on there, pull your passes together and talk about it, because the more opportunities that people have to vote, you'll increase your numbers. When we do it in Hampton, normally we have anywhere between 600 and 700 people to vote on a Sunday. And then we call it souls to the polls. This past one we had in November, we had it in October. It was the day that we had like a nor'easter, and we marched from this church to our early vote location. It's only like a half a block. It's not far. And people were calling up, "Are we still going to march?" I'm like, "Yes." We're going to march in the rain. Yes, we are. This is about voting.
Exactly.
And we did. And the numbers were more than, it wasn't quite as high as it was before, but because due to the weather, but it was higher than what we thought it was going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
It's just direct people to back in the 60s when people marched to Washington. If you saw some of those marches, they marched in the mud and the rain and all the elements out there to get across. And Leah, some people can take, we can be an example. I see Norcom, they had the tailgates and many of our events, we had people out there registering people to vote.
That's for sure.
Those places like that, when you have all these people and at the college tailgating and all those events like that, that's where you go. You can't assume all those people that come there are registered.
That's true.
And you'll find out that most of them are not. And we were catching a lot of high school students that were coming of age or they would be of age by the time the next voting period came. And, so just going where the people are is the most important thing, and keeping that momentum, especially up until the midterm elections, because we have a habit sometimes of sitting back when we have victories and not, continuing what we were doing to get those victories. So we have to keep that momentum.
Right. That's exactly right. We have to make sure that we remind folks of what this man is doing in this White House. We have to remind him on so many levels. When we talk about national security we have to be able to. But you got to make.
We should be able to see it, but seem like some people.
Well, you have to talk to folks. You have to talk what's important to them. As I always say, I don't talk at people. I talk with them.
Exactly.
And I find out what's important to them. And we know that in this next General Assembly session, we have 3 constitutional amendments that we must adhere to and make sure that it passes. Because once it passed in this in this session, because it passed in the last session, passed in this session, especially the Restoration of Rights bill, the Voting Rights bill. We're the only state that's left in the country that don't have any form of restoration of rights, none. In terms of a person being able to vote. I'm talking about voting rights. So you should be able to vote. So restoration of rights is going to be very important. And you got marriage equality. You also have women's reproductive rights. It passed this. If it passes, when it passes in this General Assembly session, it will be a referendum on the 2026 ballot.
Exactly.
So we have to make sure that we remind folks, and there's probably be some other things that's going to come out too, because you got this redistricting that's coming up. It's going to pass in a special session. It'll have to pass in the General Assembly session. There have to be another special session right after the General Assembly session before there's a referendum, for it to come up, which would be earlier than November, so that if the lines were to change, then it would have to be done before the the candidates can start filling out their paperwork. So I mean, it's just a lot going. It's going to be a lot going on, and so maybe we can come back and talk about the session and get some tools on how people can watch sessions online or how they can testify online, because we need people to tell their stories.
We do,
and be able to get a testimony on some of this legislation. And I'm so proud of Virginia Beach, the way they turned out and supported the 10-1.
Yes, they did.
That 10-1, I mean, you had the big bosses that spent $750,000 to try to get back to the old ways that was not for the people. So now Virginia Beach is changing. You're seeing changes all over. As I said before, people who voted for Trump thought they was going to be on a different list.
Exactly.
And then they realized they were the same list as us. We all in this together.
And Gaylene, have you gotten any young people engaged who can do your little TikTok things? Because your younger people are on TikTok. They're not on Facebook. They are on TikTok. But some young people who you can give the script to and allow them to get on TikTok and promote what's taking place in Virginia.
That's exactly right. Yes. So we do have some young people that we're educating to be able to do that too. I got to boost up my TikTok because I'm on it too. I'm like, well, this is going to be here. I was skeptical for so long, but I'm like, well, it looks like it's not going away.
I'm on there, and you'd be surprised at all the different people that are on there and the kind of communications you can relate on TikTok.
It's got to be short and sweet to the point. It's got to be short and sweet to the point.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And just give out this information, that you can. But we've got some good young bloggers out there that's on TikTok and that's on Instagram, and they're doing a good job of telling the truth. And that's what it's about. It's about telling the truth. And we just have to get the facts out there and tell the truth, because there's so much misinformation out here. So much. And I think people are beginning to see that all this misinformation is out there. Even his base is beginning to see this misinformation.
Yes.
Definitely.
So as we wind down,
he has no clothes.
As we wind down, we want to thank you for coming on and remind people that pay attention to what's going on, because when we were coming up, they had the 3 news stations, and at certain points of the day, you had to watch the news. Now, people are streaming and watching, Netflix and missing out on the news. And then some of the news you get is kind of misleading. So, just pay attention and be aware and informed, as I always say, and be involved,
that's right.
Every day of your life. Even if it doesn't directly affect you, somehow it can. It might directly affect a family member, or just being out there to help your fellow citizen, that might need, you to spread the word or share information.
Right. As I always say, when you have some of these folks say, I don't do politics, I say, if you don't do politics gonna do you.
You better believe it.
At the end of the day. Because let me tell you something, everything that's happening affects you one way or another.
One way or another.
From the womb to the tomb. That was my paper at Norfolk State when I got out. From the womb to the tomb, you are impacted by politics. So
when you step out of your house, every day, you're stepping into politics.
Exactly.
And the first thing I always ask somebody, do you pay utility bills? Yes. Do you have to pay, if you own a home, do you have to pay taxes? Yeah. You pay taxes on other things? Yes. Well, then that's politics.
It's politics.
Because if your voice don't come up, you don't have your voice, then you can't complain.
Exactly.
You don't vote, you can't complain.
Can't complain.
You can complain, but it won't matter.
It won't matter. That's right.
If
That's
you
true.
didn't participate in the
That's
first place. Yes,
That's
indeed.
right. That's
All right. Again, thank you. And well, if you have any last comments, it's open for that now.
I just want everyone to stay involved, continue on watching programs like the Coffee Talk, because it's important that you get the right information at the right time, and make sure that, whatever, we're making a difference every day. Making a difference in somebody's life every day is so important. And in the time that we're in right now, it is critical that we ensure that everyone is registered to vote. Everybody understands why we need to vote and understand what is happening, especially with this Medicaid and SNAP and affordable care. Our health insurance is under attack. Our education is under attack. Our kitchen table is under attack. And so we have to make sure that we educate everyone on why this is happening, because it's more than just taking away from us, it's control. And we have to take back our control and keep our control that we have right now. Well, Virginia, I'm proud of Virginia. Virginia is doing the right thing, but they're going to come after us. I said they was going to try and come after us in this election, but they tried desperately, but we must be doing something right in terms of educating folks to turn out and vote, because they are turning out to vote. We just got to boost up the numbers to make sure we keep it up and keep increasing the numbers.
Exactly.
Especially these off-year elections.
What we did is show where the real power is, and that's in the voters and your vote. That's where the real power is. And
That's
if you don't get out there and vote, you give the power to somebody else.
Exactly.
Give the power to somebody else if you don't get out to vote. That's exactly
yes,
right.
indeed.
And Gaylene, as these changes take place, will you notify us so that you can come back on so that we can keep them informed, keep the population informed as the changes that are taking place, keep them updated as to what's taking place. And the good thing about this is that it goes onto YouTube, and we can direct the people to the YouTube channel, and that they can watch this. When those who are at work now, they can come home and they can watch it once they come home. So it is out there forever. So, but any changes, let us know so that we can update the population as to what's taking place.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, some of the things we said today was high level, but I just want to make sure that everybody understand the basics is this. We got to make sure that the recipients complete their paperwork properly and make sure it's turned in on time. Those are the two things that we really got to make sure. And number 3, make sure they feel their work requirements.
Exactly.
So out of everything I've said today, those are the 3 things that we have to make sure happen
right now.
And
right
now where to go.
Amen.
And help our social services.
Exactly.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
And a challenge out to people that have a platform like this. People that have a platform like this, make sure you contact people like Gaylene and others to come on your show. Whatever your agenda is, make a little time for programs like this, where you inform people what affects them most in their everyday life. No matter what you're doing, you can take out a little bit of time. You have a mic, you have the platform, and you have a voice. So make sure you contribute to what's going to help the general public. So again, thank you.
Thank you. You all have a blessed day. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Be our guest.